Is it working now? We good? Can everybody hear me? Is this thing on? We good? Yes, maybe so. Yes. No, do I need to restart it? Somebody give me a thumbs up, a thumbs down. All right. Yay. Okay. So we'll start over. Welcome back to another edition of Going the Distance live. Straight from North Kakalaki. What I was talking about. I was on Andre Fraticelli's past, a guy that is a student out at the University of Hawaii. He's getting into podcasting. He had me on a few weeks back. As y'all all know me so well, it got a little long-winded, so he decided to break it into two pots. So here's second part. Whoa, that's the whole link. I don't know why I just copied and pasted that, but here's just the link. Sorry, I'd be stupid. So, anyways, that's the second part of it. I think, and I haven't had a chance to go back and honestly to listen to either one of them yet. I've been pretty busy recently, but just remembering how the conversation went, I would definitely say the second half. We got into some really meaty topics, some things that honestly I haven't really talked. I mean, I've talked about some of them on here before, but I've not really talked to them about some of them much in other interviews. So it's definitely a really good conversation if you get a chance to flip over and listen to it. I know his podcast is available on like Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play, all those fun places. He's got the places listed, I think, there too. You can listen to it directly on his website, or you can, I guess, link to it in the places that he's got it. Let's see. I'm trying to see if he's got it listed here, but yeah, it's. I remember him saying that it was on all those other platforms. So if you subscribe to any of those, you can find that podcast there. So that's part one or part two. If you missed part one, I'll go ahead and throw up a link to that as well. Part one's boom right there at you. He asked some really good questions, like I said, and I think it'll give you a really good insight into, some of the stuff that I've really been through and not really had a chance to discuss yet. But there's that. There was apparently I did an interview with WSOC News in Charlotte, North Carolina, on 2 weeks ago when I was home. They came out to Northwestern High School, which is where I went to school at, back in Rock Thrill, and they interviewed me out there at the track, actually, I guess where you could kind of say my career kind of kicked off at. And, we sat down for, solid 15, 20, 30 minutes. I don't remember exactly how long it was. I know that it was a while. My butt started hurting on the sitting there on the judge's stand that we were sitting on, that old wooden thing. So we were there for a while. I don't know how much of it aired, but apparently, allegedly, it aired on Sunday night. I don't have a link for it. I don't have a video for it. WSOC doesn't put up a lot of videos on YouTube. They put up one or two other things. I have reached out to them to see if there is a file of it or something that we can share, because I think everybody would enjoy it. Once again, I kind of get into the nitty gritty of how I started running, where I started running, and you kind of get to see the place and see actually they filmed me and my high school teammate, Johnny Mack, who we have shared. It's probably a very close mark between him and my other friend Moen, who I've shared the most miles with in my career and in my life. But Moen was the second half. Johnny Mack was the first half, being on the high school team together, and he and I really discovered running together. I managed to con him into coming out so I wouldn't have to be filmed completely by myself. But we were out actually at Winthrop University in the farm area where I ran my first cross country race ever. And then when I later on started my collegiate career at, and where I was at when I got sick. And that's kind of why we have this whole wonderful story to tell. But I hope they put it into a, and I use the word hope, but some of y'all know how I feel about that word. But they hope they put it together in a good piece. Somebody shared on my Facebook that they had seen it. I wasn't aware of it because I was hoping that at least my old mom and dad could see it, or they could DVR it or something. But if I get a link to it or something, I will let you all know. That way, you can kind of put some pictures with and some scenes with some of the places that I've talked about, and they're very important in my career. But I think that's it all on the media side, places that I've been. That stuff's kind of probably petering out here for a while. I will be in Chapel Hill on Saturday at the VF North Carolina chapter meeting. I'll be giving a short update on stuff for the foundation, where the foundation's at, what all they're doing. What up, Whip? Where they're at, what all is going on, what kind of our goals are for coming up. A big thing for us in November is Giving Tuesday, so you'll see us start to post about that here very soon. Giving Tuesday, if you're not aware, it's kind of a national, probably thanks to social media, probably an international thing. It's a day of giving. Pop says he has a DVR'd, so maybe I'll record it with my phone and go real old school. Record the TV with my phone and put it up for you peeps. But anyways, I put, I done lost my train of thought now, Dad. Thanks. Giving Tuesday. So it's kind of probably potentially an international thing. So it's not just for the vasculitis foundations, but all foundations kind of participate in it. And it's a Tuesday during the year where they encourage people to kind of give to their favorite causes and help raise funds for foundations. And I will be very honest with you. Before I started working with the Vasculitis Foundation, I had probably the same relationship with foundations that most people do, which is you hear and see about them doing really good things, but you don't necessarily understand what they actually do, because if you don't have some sort of rare disease or aren't involved in a specific thing, I don't know why, like the United Way comes to mind, or Make-A-Wish Foundation or something like that, where you're involved with it, which I wasn't. I was unfortunately like most run-of-the-mill Americans and just wasn't involved in them. I had done obviously some community service in my life, but I had never really been involved with a foundation. And you heard about things like Live Strong and all this other stuff, and you just didn't really know what they do. But for those of you that aren't aware, the Vasculitis Foundation is really the only major foundation for people with vasculitis. They are primarily responsible, I think, outside of obviously the patient advocacy and connecting patients together and creating a community for us, and sharing information. I think the most important thing that they do is the continuing education programs that they provide and get materials out to doctors around the United States, because vasculitis is a very rare disease, and most doctors, even rheumatologists or kidney doctors or sinus doctors or pulmonologists that are going to be involved in the treatment of it, don't have a lot of understanding about it. And they're not up to date on the literature. Quite frankly, it's not something that they probably feel like they need to be, because they either don't see any cases of it or don't see a lot of it. And it's hard for them to stay up on that because they're inundated with all these other cases of things of people coming to them for things like asthma or regular kidney disease, or sinus infections and deviated septums, all the things that and allergy problems, all these things that those doctors deal with on 999,000 out of 100,000 times, and that one out of 100,000 or 200,000, excuse me, that come in and they've got a vasculitis disorder. It's just not on their radar. But the foundation provides a lot of materials for those doctors. And you're seeing a lot more people, I think, diagnosed now, which is good and bad. I think it's being diagnosed better. I don't think the incidences of it necessarily getting higher. But anyways, it was really eye-opening to see all the work that they do and the real impact they have on people's lives and helping them kind of get back on their feet as far as finding balance and understanding their illness and their disease and connecting them with other patients. A lot of you that are listening to this, I've connected with you through that and through my platform with the foundation. So Evan reached out, says, "Hey, dude, got airlifted for GPA for the first time 1 year ago tonight. Miles better today. Had to have a plasma transfer and all that. Your Facebook page was first into the vasculitis world. I got it. Cheers, man." Thank you, Evan. Congratulations on making it another year without being airlifted. Anytime that you can stay out of the ER and those emergency situations, that is one thing I've never done. I've been and done a lot of things and been in physical harm's way numerous times, both from my vasculitis and from the lifestyle of somebody that's made some bad decisions. I've landed myself in the ER on numerous occasions. Luckily, I never had to be airlifted. Although the last time I was in the ER was for a potential heart issue, and I felt like they weren't giving me adequate care, and I was worried we might have to go check myself into another ER or call from that ER and call an ambulance from another one to come get me. But I finally ended up getting seen and stuff. And then ironically, I just saw in the paper that they got some award from the American Heart Association for their cardiac unit, which I was like, well, that's funny because, if I'd actually been having a cardiac unit or a cardiac event, I probably would have died or had severe heart damage. So it was quite scary, but it's been a while. It looks like we're probably not going to experience that. I've had some heart issues surrounded the Rituxan infusions, which is an immunotherapy treatment that they give many different vasculitis patients. It's also used for lupus and a few other diseases, but I can't remember any of those off the top of my head. But for some reason, a couple of weeks after I was getting these infusions, I was experiencing heart attack-like symptoms, and it's terrifying, needless to say. But I think we're far enough out now that I think I'm trying to remember how far. I know it was like 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, so we're kind of in that window of that last time, because the last time was in March for me, so that I was in the ER. Coincidentally, it was also the only day that I took off of running in my entire buildup. I was looking back. This is a random side note. So from when I got my last infusion on February 28th this past year, I took a couple days off after that for my scheduled break from running, and then basically from like March 10th until September, the only day that I took off of running was the day I landed in the ER. And that was it, because I went running the next day. But it's probably not the smartest move, but it's how I roll. I wouldn't even probably recommend that to my clients, but that's also why I have a coach. All right, so I'll be the chapter meeting. If anybody wants any information on that, if you are a vasculitis patient in the North Carolina area, there's information on the chapter meeting we are having on Saturday. Trying to where's the meeting agenda? I had it up. There it is. Let's see here. Where did you go? Oh, there it is. All right. I was trying to remember who's going to be speaking. Dr. Ashley Henderson, who is a lung doctor at UNC and specializes in pulmonary vasculitis. So that will be huge. They try to have a doctor speak at everyone. And I'll also I'll be leading a small group discussion from 1 to 2, I'm sure, as well. I normally do that as well. People want to ask me exercise questions. I do it a lot or something, or know something about it, or went to school for it for some reason. We generally do one on exercise. So if you're there, bring you some questions. But we're going to go ahead and transition into what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and apologize. I forgot to bring water in here tonight. I was sort of rushing, so my voice is getting a little rough, and I apologize, but we're going to power through it because that's how we roll. But anyways, I kind of wanted to talk in the cross-country world. It's a very important time of year, this time of year. If you're not familiar with cross-country, it is still a team sport. Most of running is an individual sport, but cross-country is a team sport. So this time of the year here in the late October, early November, for both high school and college cross-country seasons, it's the championship season. And it's why you put in all the miles over the summer and why you work your butt off in the why you work your butt off into this fall, and blood, sweat, and tear it up with your teammates, is to accomplish those goals that you set out to reach at the beginning of the season, or the beginning of the summer, or even after a disappointing race or a really great race at the end of cross country season last year. You've kind of had this time of year pegged on the map. And I've been working with High Point University here recently as a volunteer coach. We are actually hosting the conference championship, which is why I've kind of been busy. Obviously, there's production that goes into that side of it, of getting the meet ready and everything. But and it's stressful for coaches the week, because then you're constantly questioning everything that you've done all year long, and whether or not it's going to work or pay off, or how it's going to go. Sometimes you have more confidence than others with what you've done, but you're always kind of second guessing it, and just for lack of a better word right now, hoping that you did things right. And we're kind of at that point right now. Our conference meet for High Point, they're in the Big South Conference. Our conference is on Friday. A lot of the high schools have like regionals or their state qualifying meet this coming Saturday, and the state championship the Saturday after that. So it's really the meat of the season right here, or the end of the season, where things can go really well or go really badly. And it's kind of how you are going to measure your season and everything you've been working towards. And it's got me thinking a lot, because I miss being part of those teams. I was never a great cross country runner. I was decent, but I was always a little bit better at track. But that never stopped me from trying really hard at cross country, especially when you're part of a team. You're integral to the success of that team, and you doing better, even if it's not something that you're the best at, is what's best for the group. And I think that's a mentality that I've unfortunately realized here recently that has kind of been lost on some people. Maybe it's lost on this generation of kids that might be a little bit more selfish, I guess, or not understanding of what really working with a group and working with the teams like, because it's been the most rewarding things I've ever done in my entire life, is being part of a team and working on and working out with a team. And I kind of wanted to talk about, because you find teams and groups everywhere in life. It's, dating really all the way back to, if you want to go completely old school, like tribalism, like picking your team, picking your group, and finding ways to be successful in that group. So it doesn't just pertain to the athletic world. That's the word I was looking for. It doesn't just pertain to the athletic world. So you build successful teams at work with the people that you work with. Those things are, spearheaded by your bosses, your administrators, your principals, your managers, your CEOs, whoever. And those people at the top really kind of set the culture and everything. And sometimes what your goals will be, maybe you're more in charge of that on an individual basis. But unless you work for yourself, kind of like I do, but I luckily work for myself, but I have this wonderful team of people that I love working with, which is all of you. And Evan, I'm not far behind you. You might be 34, just a couple years behind you, but I still really, really miss those days, dude. I miss the days of high school. Actually, the thing I miss the most probably is the locker room. Dealing with the locker room in high school and college is really, really, a lot of really, really filthy things happen. And it's beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. I could tell most of you locker room stories that would probably disgust you or make you want to vomit, or just completely weird you out. But they were a load of fun, at least for me. But I grew up in a locker room, and so I'm kind of weird like that. Actually, one of my favorite things to do is tell people that have never really spent time in a locker room some of the things that go on in a locker room, and just kind of watch them just stare in confusion. You did what? What was where? With what? With a soccer ball? No. Oh, no, a football? Yeah. But some of my fondest memories of high school and college are locker room memories. But that's where the camaraderie happens. And it's not even just an American thing, Evan. It is. I found out it is a worldwide experience. There are locker rooms all around the world. Some of the international kids that I've had the blessing to be around and learn about other cultures and everything. They have some of those same experiences that we do. So it's not just while we do want to say go America, yeah, America. It's not just an American thing. So, but anyways, you're part of a team, kind of no matter where you have to work, because everything has to work together, right? Everything has to work together for and be cohesive for that companies to succeed, for the business to succeed, for the team to succeed if you're on a sports team. And I kind of wanted to just kind of go through some of the things that I feel like or where I see mistakes happen, and they happen on both sides. So this isn't me just pointing a finger at every bad manager or coach I've ever or boss I've ever had in my life. That's not what this is about. There's mistakes that happen on both sides, and I just kind of wanted to talk about a few of those things that I feel like, because I've been on a lot of teams, I've had a lot of different jobs and had a lot of different bosses, some fantastic, some not so fantastic. And I just wanted to share some of that, basically the top 3 tips I would say to what I would call good team dynamics or good team chemistry, and kind of how that starts. And I'm really, the number one thing I think is important, whether you're at a business, whether it's something you're on a club team, or whether you're on a high level sports team or a high school team, a professional team, whatever it is, there has to be goals, right? And there has to be a goal or a set of goals that is agreed upon by everyone as the main priority. And, if that's a principal at a school saying, like, we want this sort of passing rate this is what we're going to shoot for, right? Like, or the, retention and passing rate of our students, like, this is what we're shooting for. If it's a business, it's like, this is the number of products that we want to sell, or this is how we want to focus on the customer or focus on their experience. Like that goal or set of goals needs to be very clear. And I think a lot of times it has to come from the top down, and it starts with the people that are in charge, because they kind of set the tone for things. Now, sometimes I do think, especially on sports teams, or a business that might be, maybe there's a group of you that are all determining the goals. Maybe it's a group of people that own a business together, and you're trying to figure out how to best to approach something or what your goal should be. If there's 5 people that own the company or a board of trustees or whatever it is, those people have to decide it, but ultimately you all have to buy into it. Um, and figure out what those goals are that's going to make everybody successful. So sometimes the team might vote on them, sometimes they might come from the top down. For instance, when I was at Appalachia State and when I was in high school, the idea was, and the motto was team. It was trying to win region titles and state titles in high school, and it was at App State. It was trying to win conference titles in cross country and track, and those were the goals, and those were put forth by the coaches, and that's what was expected from the administrative staff and our athletic department and our athletic directors, and they were giving us the resources that they thought it would take for us to succeed in those roles on both sides of that. And then, when I was at Winthrop, they were really focused on the individual because we didn't necessarily have the resources of a larger universities. So they tried to pick a few kids to put a lot of resources into to try to give those kids an opportunity to succeed. And that once again came down from the top, came down from the coaching staff. Different approaches. There's nothing certainly wrong with either one of them. But they foster very different cultures and they're all fine. And, some of the work environments that I've had are all that way too. You want to, the best ones and the ones that I've had the most experience or the most fun in is work when those goals, everybody's on the same page with stuff. Because I've certainly been in positions where those goals aren't clear. You don't really know what your job is. You don't know what your role really is or how important that role is within the company or community to its success. And you don't feel like you're truly part of the experience. You just kind of feel like you're punching a clock and getting a paycheck. Which I don't think is ever a good place to feel like you're in, especially when you're spending 8, 9, 10, 11 hours a day at a place. It's not good for your morale. It's not good for your mental health to just feel like you're just kind of punching a button and you feel like you're maybe just trying to survive. But when everybody's on the same page and everybody has those goals, you understand your role. You understand your role within the group dynamic. And if you take that all the way back, kind of like I said, to the tribalism stuff, when you take that all the way back, you understand that like everybody within the community had a role in a tribe. Some people were hunters, some people were gatherers, some people took care of the kids. You had the old sage that sat in his tent and did drugs and hallucinated and built fires. But everybody within the village had a role. And, there's that old saying, like it takes a village to raise a child. And I think that's one thing we've probably gotten away from too, as a society is helping raise the people around us and help raising the standard of everybody around us. And with the goal of having a better society, having a better place, that you live in or that you work in or that you want to be successful. So I think the goals of whether it's trying to get better. I heard a great quote the other day from one of the best coaches in the United States, and they asked him what his goal was for his athletes this fall. And when you're coaching, he's a professional coach out in Oregon, and he coaches a bunch of different athletes who all have individual goals. Now they are all very individual based, meaning they all have their own events. They're not really participating in any team competitions as professionals, but they all have their own individual goals that they're trying to succeed at. Now they're working within a group dynamic to try to achieve those. But like he said, we're trying to get better at getting better. And no matter what that goal is, that applies to that entire group of athletes, even though they all have very different individual goals. They're focusing on different events, different races, but they're all trying to get better at getting better. And you can have people that are not necessarily trying to focus on the same thing that can all work together within a dynamic to help each other out. And I think that's a prime example of that. And I think a really beautiful example. It's everybody's trying to work together to get better. And in a team atmosphere, it's just a lot easier and a lot more fun when you're doing that. And when you have those goals that you work for, it gives you purpose, it gives you meaning, it gives you drive, it can help give you desire. That's the question I probably get. And I posted about this on Monday on Instagram and Facebook. Is like when you have a desire to achieve something, it can breed that dedication. I have a desire to undo my bad, undo my bad experience at the Olympic trials in 2016. And so I have an extreme desire to do that. Before that, it was an extreme desire to get there and be in that conversation, to be one of the best milers in the country. And so like that led all of my decisions, and the team of people that I had around me all understood what I was trying to accomplish. But when you have that desire, it fulfills, and gives you so much energy. And now obviously I've talked tons about how having everybody involved in this the second time around has been so much more powerful. But Evan wants to know, I studied philosophy at Duquesne. What do you think about a new trend of stoicism for people that have diseases like vasculitis? I don't know. I go back, that's really interesting, because if you think about like somebody that's trying to be stoic, right? You're trying to stand up, put on your face, and be blowing up and dying on the inside, but keeping. And if I get this wrong, let me know, because I could just be stupid and not understanding this. But when you're trying to be stoic and try to stand up, I mean, I go back and forth about it, because I understand that, but not everybody can be that. And not everybody can be that at all times. It's certainly helped me to try to be stoic over the last 2 years. But I'm also very much the type person that wears their emotions on their sleeve. And I have been since I was probably born. I know since a young age I was that way, with the temper tantrums that I would throw, even into my adult life. I tend to wear those emotions on my sleeve, and I've been hurt at times because of that. And I'm a fairly emotional guy. Let's just be honest. That's the only way to put it. But I will say, trying to be more stoic, for my cause and for my people and for the people that are all part of this team, and for people that have struggled with anything at all in life. It helped me over the last year and a half to 2 years, when I started struggling with my health again. I had to stand up and be stoic for these people. I didn't feel like I could fall off the pedestal, like I had in years past, and kind of go down into and lose myself into depression and anxiety and everything. But and substance abuse and that other whole just dangerous area to be in, that ultimately just can lead to very dark places, and potentially even suicide, or just giving up on life and giving up on your disease. So I don't really know. You've got to be stoic. You really have to find your rock in your center. I think it's certainly good to achieve too, but I think it's hard to be that and be that all the time. I certainly strive for it, but it's something that I certainly fall short of a lot. But it just depends on the person. I used to. It's funny when you learn all these new concepts and learn all these new things, or learn these new ideas, or hear these things that work for you. You kind of just want to push them to other people and push them on others, because it's like, this worked for me, this should work for you. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that what works for one person might not always work for the other person, or other people. Especially with, like, a prime example of that is the All Hope Is Gone tattoo, which is I talk about actually in that. If you weren't on here earlier, you can scroll up in the comments here and see I was on Andre Fraticelli's podcast. And he asked me about that, because, when he first read it, like a lot of people, they find it as a very depressing thing. But like I talked about in that podcast, and like I've gone over here before, is it was not good for me to spend my energy worrying about hope when you have a disease that you don't know what's going to happen with it. And it's just, some people find find strength and hope. I'm just not one of those people, and I think people need to be okay um, being okay with no hope, basically, and finding their strength wherever they do. And I now find my strength in the journey and my life and what I'm doing, uh, away from the things that I've put a lot of time and energy into. Even if all this stuff never works out with running, will I be disappointed? Yes, but it won't be the end all be all. But I can sit and hope all that I want, for this to work out with running or things to work out with my career. But I could technically never get healthy again, and there's not a daggone thing uh, you know, I don't know. I just don't know. Everybody's got to find their own thing, and I think striving to be stoic is great, but I think also you have to realize that you are going to fail and you are going to fall, or not even fail, fall. I like that new term, fall. I've been using that word a lot recently, because, as I've said on here before, like, a failure is only a failure if you fail to learn something from that. So if you fail and learn and get back up and keep going and change, you just kind of fall. You don't really truly fail. You're falling. But you'll if you're reaching and trying to achieve as your goal stoicism. I mean, I think it's certainly amazingly admirable and something that I definitely strive towards, but I'm just not great at. I would. It's funny when I think of stoic. Ironically, I think about what they call like the old dead Elvis face, with cyclists and stuff. Which is like you just want to be on the outside, like nothing's going on, but you're just like secretly just like blowing up totally on the inside. I have heard the song "Don't Stop Me Now" by Queen. Actually, I went on a big Queen. Ironically, went on a big Queen binge today. They've got a new biopic movie coming out about Freddie, who was the greatest lead singer of all time, and who I still think has voice of an angel, of a god, and of the devil, all wrapped into one person. It was just perfect, just perfect. Every time he opened his mouth, I don't think he ever sang a wrong note. But it was just so perfect. What came out of his, it was big, it was grandiose, it was strong. But I digress. I don't know how we ended up talking about Freddie Mercury on a podcast about team and goals, but that Queen had the goal of being the biggest band in the world, which I think they certainly achieved at one point. I mean, heck, they're one of the biggest bands of all time. You can go to any single sporting event in the world now, and they are playing "We Will Rock You" and "We Are the Champions" at some point in time during the game. So I think that pretty much speaks for itself. But anyways, back to being stoic. You can, I think you should certainly try to achieve that. But I try to achieve that myself, even like in my own running. You try to act like there's not stuff going on the inside, but sometimes that pain face just creeps in, and it feels good. So I think you just kind of have to embrace the fall and embrace the failure and learn from it, and move back on and try to get back up on the pedestal. But I think it's certainly something for everybody to shoot for. But like with everything else, like if you don't get there, it is okay. Because I think the other problem with that is like of people trying to be too stoic and then doing that thing where they just shove it all down on the inside, where they just kind of like don't act like anything's wrong at all. But no, I do not follow hockey. Is that a sport? What is that? Is that a thing? Is that ice skating, dancing with the sticks? Or is that where they fight in the ring? No, I have been to a hockey game, but I do not follow hockey, unfortunately. But it's certainly an entertaining sport when I watch it. I just have never gotten into it for whatever reason. But that leads me, I guess we'll go ahead, because we're talking about goals and stuff. and God, what's probably extremely important, I think, in hockey and every other sport and every other business and every other thing that I've ever been involved in my entire life is communication. Uh, Effective communicators, and if you have to be an effective communicator to be a boss, to be a leader, to be a captain, or to even excel. I think at your job, unless your job is coding, maybe I don't know. Um, I'm around a lot of Pittsburgh people, Evan. For some reason, I've been surrounded myself with a lot of Pittsburgh people. I've got a client up there, Ed from the Foundation's up there. My favorite road mile is up there in Pittsburgh. The head coach at High Point, he's a Pittsburgh guy. My favorite quarterbacks from the outside of Pittsburgh area, and Joe Montana. I don't know. There's a lot of good things about Pittsburgh. I always like that town. But anyways, effective communications, effective communicating. If you're not good at getting your point across, you're not going to be able to get people to achieve those goals, get people on the same page, get people to do what you need them to do or what you want them to do. And it's really, really tough to get people to those goals if you can't communicate what you want. As a coach, I work with a lot of different people, and you have to figure out different ways to communicate with each one of those people, because some people, Neil, if you ever listen to this, need a little more prodding, right? And some people are very, very hands off, and they want something. You communicate what you want to them. They read it, they get it done. Some people need a little more helping through the process, and that's okay. But you've got to be able to be flexible in your communicating strategies. Some people need a little more, some people need a little less. And if you're not aware of this, then you can really get stuck in a rut of communicating in only one way. And whether that be, and some people are really good at what they do, and being, I'll use two polar opposite examples. From the coaching world. If you're not a sports fan, I apologize, but I'm going to use Tony Dungy and Bob Knight because they're complete polar opposite. Tony Dungy was the Tampa Bay Bucks and Indianapolis Colts coach. He won a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, and he was known for having been an NFL coach that never even yelled or raised his voice at his players. That was his communicating style, and he was very effective at it. There's certainly been people that have been, effective football coaches that have also yelled. And then you've got people on the other side of the spectrum, which was Bob Knight, who is infamous with his antics of throwing stuff onto the court, screaming, yelling, being loud, being super vocal. Both coaches were able to get their athletes to respond and work towards their goals, but in completely different ways. Not everybody can play well for Tony Dungy. Not everybody can play for Bob Knight. But when you're in a work environment, you might not be like those people where they can kind of handpick their teams. And while you are hiring people, you are sometimes, I don't want to say stuck with them, but you are kind of, or you're working with other people in your group. You might not have hired them. They're hired by the company or whatever. So you have to find ways that you might have to communicate differently to those people so that everybody's on the same page. Because if you don't communicate properly, people's feelings get hurt. People get mad. People shut off. People get frustrated really easily. And when you're continually kind of in that headspace, it's really hard to do your job well, or to fulfill your role within the company or the group or the team. So everybody, either from bottom up or top down, you have to be able to communicate effectively. You have to be able to explain what you're trying to do, and communicate what you've done, how you did it, or what you need somebody else to do to help you. If you can't do that effectively, it's not going to let the machine run properly. The machine's not going to stay oiled. You're not going to be able to move forward. So it's very important to be aware of that. And be aware of how you're interacting with people around you, and be aware that you might, because very few of us are in this like utopia of a situation where you get to control every single person that is around you. For those of us that aren't, you have to figure out different ways to communicate sometimes. And I think it's uh, to your benefit to really pay attention to how you speak to people and how they respond to them, and whether it's good or whether it's bad or whether it's somewhere in the middle. It can make your day a lot better and a lot easier. Um, I've listened to a few of Evan. I've listened to a few of Kevin Smith's podcasts, but not too many of them. I've actually heard him more on probably other people's podcasts than I have his own podcast. But how you communicate and how you get people to do stuff is going to determine whether those people are acting out of pride, whether people are acting out of fear, and whether people are feeling belittled or whether they're feeling encouraged. And everybody needs something a little different. And we're certainly in that world of people now where they're not bottling everything up inside, and it's getting harder for people to just put their head down and do their job either at work or amongst the team. They are kind of thinking me. Now, whether that speaks to a certain thing going on in society, I don't know. But the reality of the situation is that's how it is. So we have to figure out how to deal with it. We have to figure out how to deal with this world that is getting nerfed, as some would say it. So you got to be more conscious. You got to be more aware of how you're communicating and how people are reacting to you. So it's really to your benefit to pay attention to that, because it's not just in how your superiors talk to you, but how you communicate with the people around you and how that's going to affect the team chemistry. And then finally, once you've got goals, you can communicate it effectively. The biggest thing that being part of a team will do is allow you to lean on each other in difficult times, to lean on each other in hard times, and to be there when things go well. It's fun. And when you reach those goals that you set out to, and you've had some struggle along the way or not had struggle, but regardless of what it is, whenever you get to that end destination and you've gone through all that stuff together, having the ability to lean on each other and be there for each other really makes it all worth it. And that's where the real strength comes. That's where, the most cohesive groups that I've ever been a part of, whether it's been in a workplace or whether it's been on sports teams, those moments that you had together where you either succeeded or didn't succeed, it was awesome. When you had that ability to lean on each other and look each other in the eye and know that you all had done everything that you needed to do to reach your goals, or not. And maybe you fell short, but that's certainly okay. You all tried together and you all had an enjoyable time doing it. And I think we need to remember that when you all are working towards the same goals and you're communicating effectively, it really allows you to lean on other people when things are difficult. Because you're going to have bad days. You're going to have days where you're sick. You're going to have days where you're just not feeling well, and you need somebody else's help, and you need to be able to have the strength to reach out and ask for that. But also not be scared to do it because of the people that you're around, and the people that are above you. So you need to be encouraged to be able to do that. And I think that's why like having those goals and making sure everybody's on the same page and being able to communicate with each other properly. That way people don't feel like they're getting taken advantage of. And everybody knows that everything that they're doing is in the interest of the group. And that just makes everybody so much happier and makes things so enjoyable when you reach your goals, or you get to the end destination and maybe you didn't, but you had a damn good time trying. And that's what's exciting. And that's what I certainly kind of miss about this time of year. I've, in the last couple of weeks, kind of inserted my foot back into the coaching world. So I feel like I'm kind of part of a team that's going to be lining up here in 2 days. Even though I've only been a part of it for a couple of weeks, when that time comes in the spring, when we're at conference meets and I've been there a little longer, I certainly will have a little bit more invested in it, and we'll feel a little stronger sense of pride. But even already just jumping into something in the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, it's been, I guess, really, yeah, about the last 20 days, the last 18 days. So even in that short of time, I feel some investment in what I'm doing, and really excited to see what happens, and excited to see the results in 2 days. Um, with how our athletes and student athletes respond um, to the moment and to everything that they've done throughout the last 4 months or 5 months in work. And it's exciting when you get to those moments, and that's what I miss, the excitement, and being around those people, and the energy. So uh, do the best that you can to help facilitate that sort of atmosphere wherever you're at, whether it's work or whether it's in your club or in your groups, or whatever you spend a lot of your time at. And heck, even your family. So, uh, invest in those, and communicate, and pump each other up, and lean on each other, and push each other, because it's just things. Misery loves company, but so does success. Like it's fun when you're winning together. It's fun to do that with other people, and it's fun to share in the success of others and those around you. So I certainly encourage all of you to do that. Um, a great. I know I've used the example here a lot, but just being involved with a group of local runners that meets a couple of nights a week during the week to go for jogs. They're all there for each other, and they show up every week. And most of them, or all of them, have been at jobs all day long, and they show up, and they've got goals that they're working to. Everybody's super encouraging with each other, even when they want to beat somebody within the group, or they want to kind of move up in the pecking order, or whatever it is, or beat somebody's PR. Like, they know that it's all in good fun, and the pub runners here, they just have this amazing atmosphere, that's fun, and the energy is exciting to be around, and we all love seeing each other do well. We all love seeing people get a PR, and it's fun to be around. And I think that's what some people miss when they don't fully invest in a team or a group. Maybe it's just because they don't know how, or they don't understand. But when you do, when you kind of fight it, and you fight the things that are above you, or fight the boss, or fight for maybe something that you think is more in your best interest than in the groups, it kind of pits you against everybody else. And I think a lot of times, if they would just spend the time to take a step back and look at what the bigger picture is, not fighting those energies would make them a lot happier, and make the experience a lot more enjoyable. So um, invest in your groups, invest in your teams, invest in the people that you work with, invest in the things that you care about. And the thing is extremely important, and everybody will have a better time. So that's what I got for you guys tonight. I hope you took something away from it. I hope you learned something, or didn't learn something, but reaffirmed something that you might have already known, and you heard it come out of my mouth instead of your brain, and it just reaffirmed it. So, unless anybody's got any more questions, I would be happy to oblige those. If not, I'm going to leave you with the rest of your Wednesday evening, or whenever you choose to consume this in the future. These are going up on YouTube. Again, I finally got that all worked out. I was having an issue with my computer and getting these everywhere. So if you miss it, you can see that on Facebook or on YouTube. If you're at the gym or something, don't want to pull up Facebook. We're going to work on getting them in some more places here soon. So that's all I got for you guys this week. We'll be back next week. Whip, I unfortunately won't be. We got a team dinner I got to go to. So I know a lot of people got big marathons and stuff coming up. So good luck at all of those. We will see everybody at some point in time, somewhere in a place near you, hopefully. But till then, guys, I love each and every one of you. I tell you that every week. You guys are all incredible and amazing, and make this team so special to be a part of. And I can't thank you all enough, from the bottom of my very deep heart, black, cold heart. I love all of you, and I really, truly mean it. So as I leave everybody with every week, go out into the world and learn something that don't be afraid to learn something that might just change your mind.